Do you remember when we were kids and would fold up a piece of paper so we'd cut out paper snowflakes? Well, with Christmas right around the corner, I thought it would be fun to make an iron snowflake, but we're going to do the same process with a piece of paper to get our pattern. This is just a matter of folding the paper. I'm starting with a 5-inch square. Whatever size you want your finished snowflake to be is completely up to you. And you fold this into a triangle, fold that in half, and then fold that one into thirds. And that's the toughest part of this, I think, is getting perfectly equal thirds so that when you cut it out, everything's symmetrical. And there's our snowflake pattern. Now personally, I've been cutting a bunch of these out just to see what works and what I like, and don't know if I'll cut them all out of sheet metal or not, but I might, and just end up with a variety. But remember, no two snowflakes are exactly the same, so it's okay for all of these to look completely different. Matter of fact, I think this would be a great place to get the kids or the grandkids involved. Let them do the paper snowflakes and help you glue them onto the sheet metal. And since most of this is going to be done cold, if you can trust them with a hammer and a chisel, they might even be able to help you cut this out some. But even if all they do is the paper pattern, they still had a chance to participate, and they can still take pride in the work they did. Then I glue these to a piece of sheet metal. I use contact cement. You can use whatever it is you prefer. Next thing I want to do is go ahead and cut these out and separate the two snowflakes from this. I think the way to do this is with a chisel, so you can get in there and do the delicate work and cut right into the corners, even some of the inside stuff, although some of those may need a drill bit and some files because they're going to be pretty small. But a variety of small chisels will get you pretty close. These chisels are radiused on the end, so they will kind of track around a corner, but as the corners get tighter, go to a smaller chisel. Now this is one of those projects that you can do entirely by hand at the anvil. Most of this chisel work is going to be done cold. It'll probably get heated and annealed from time to time because it will work harden. You want to go through and cut every single line on this, and that includes any decorative chisel work that you're going to do. So if you're going to do some decorative work in here just to add some interest, do that as part of your first pass and establish those lines, because the paper eventually is going to fall off, and if you do anneal it and soften it, you're going to burn the paper off. So you want to make sure those lines are established. If you work in one area till you cut through, it's going to start to distort and warp, and you're going to have real trouble getting this thing really even. So work around the whole thing, establish all those lines, and then continue to work until you've cut through all the areas that need to be cut free. Then you can go back and refine the decorative chisel work. I got a whole bunch of these little tools like this. They've been made over years. Most of them are made from S7. Pretty simple little tools. You just tend to acquire an assortment, but just make what you need as you need it. You don't have to try and make 30 or 40 of these in one sitting. Now this is some place where this little air-powered treadle hammer is really handy, because you just have to tap your toes instead of swinging a hammer, and you got both hands available for the work. Just keep your fingers out of the strike zone. Now the air control on this makes this hammer really simple to operate, and you could work with this all day long and not get very tired out. The problem is I don't have very good dexterity with a chisel held in a pair of tongs. I much prefer to hold a chisel for this kind of work. Doing hot work, no, but for this kind of work I much prefer to hold these like you would a pencil and work this way. This hammer does not have any kind of a stop on it. And if I were going to keep this in the shop, I would find some way to put a chain on here so that it can't come any further down than this. And if the chisel kicks out, your hand is protected under here. And for that reason, I'm going to go back to the inline hammer because I do have a stop on it to protect my hand. And I'm going to do a much neater, cleaner job working under it. But if I were going to keep this hammer in the shop, I would certainly do some things like putting a positive stop on it, and that would make it much more useful for the kind of work I do. Now this is the air-powered treadle hammer kit that Roy sent me to try out. And if you haven't seen the video where I unboxed it, set it up, and gave you my thoughts on this hammer in general, I have a link to that video right over here. Finish this video first, then go watch that video. And of course, this hammer also allows me to sit down while I work, which makes you more relaxed, more comfortable, so you can concentrate more on the work, and you'll do better work as a result. Now I wouldn't mind having the air cylinder on this, that would be even better. And I got a buddy that's got an air cylinder on his inline treadle hammer. I think I'm going to have to visit his shop again, get the specs for it, and go ahead and convert this one over. Now these extra lines won't be cut all the way through, they're just there to add a little bit of visual interest to the finished piece. I have all my chisel lines established, but this does sort of start to work harden the sheet metal. So I'm going to run it through the forge, bring it up to temperature, let it slow cool. That'll anneal it somewhat, and then I'll go back to work on it. I'll work in the same manner until I finally start to cut through. Now, starting with your second pass on this, you're probably going to start breaking through in places. So you want to make sure you have a soft plate or a cutting plate under the work while you start making these other passes. So when you do break through, you're not driving a chisel into your anvil, damaging the anvil and the chisel. Even if the pieces aren't breaking out completely, if you're starting to see light through this, it's probably about ready to start breaking them out cold over at the workbench. So that's the easy part. Now, because of the ragged edges the chisel leaves, there's going to be a whole lot of filing on this. And for these interior shapes, I think filing is the only way to go. The exterior you can do a little bit of light grinding on, but part of the benefit of cutting this with a chisel is that you end up with a telltale sign that it was cut with a chisel. It has a little faceted bevel around the edge, and if you have a plasma cutter in your shop and you want to plasma cut this, by all means go ahead. It's just not going to have quite the character that the chisel cut might have. Now the first thing I will do is take this to the grinder and just knock the very sharp, ragged edge off the outside of this and kind of knock the sharp parts off the backside just to make sure there's nothing that's going to cut anybody. Black Bear Forge is sponsored by Combat Abrasives. Use the link in the video description and the coupon code BlackBear10 for a discount on your order. But then the rest of this is going to be done with a file. If you do a lot of these and make the cutouts rather delicate, you're going to appreciate an assortment of files, from regular hand files down to little jeweler's needle files. I'm going to heat this up one last time just to remove any of the shiny spots from filing. I'll let that scale a little bit. Then I'll put just a little bit of a curve in it to give it a little bit more depth. And finally, some hand sanding to bring out some highlights, and a very light coat of paste wax just to keep it from rusting. You can use any finish you want. Brass brushing would probably look quite nice on these.